Welcome. Today we're going to be taking a close look at all of the source material on the disappearance of Asha Degree from Shelby, North Carolina.
This is a case that began, of all days, on Valentine's Day morning back in 2000.
And it remains one of the most profoundly unsettling missing children cases.
Yeah.
Mostly because the circumstances are just so contradictory.
Exactly. And our goal here is to move past just a simple retelling of the story. We want to really examine the timeline chronologically based on the reports.
Focusing on those bizarre circumstances of her leaving, the evidence found years later, and of course the recent developments that have completely shifted the investigation.
Right. And we need to emphasize that we're approaching this with the utmost sensitivity. This is an unimaginable tragedy for the Degree family, and it's been going on for over 2 decades.
Absolutely. The thing that makes this case so challenging for investigators and, for people who follow it, is that it just defied all the typical profiles from the very beginning. You have this child. She was known for being intensely shy, very cautious.
Emotionally stable.
Right. And yet she seemingly packs a bag, leaves her very secure home in the middle of a literal raging storm, and then runs away from help when someone offers it.
That contradiction is the absolute core of this mystery, and it really demands that we look at every single documented detail very, very closely.
So to really grasp the shock of her disappearance, we first have to establish the kind of environment Asha grew up in.
It's crucial context.
She was born August 5th, 1990. Her parents were Harold and Aquila Degree, and in a detail that's just tragically ironic, they were married on Valentine's Day in 1988.
Yeah, they lived on Oakcrest Drive in Shelby, North Carolina, a residential neighborhood. Asha also had an older brother, O'Brien.
And the sources really go into detail describing this environment. It was, by all accounts, highly structured.
Very close-knit and insulated. The family's life really revolved around their extended family, their church, and her school, Falston Elementary.
So this was not a home that was showing any signs of instability or neglect or anything that you might think would, make a child run away.
Not at all. And the parents were more than just careful. The sources describe them as hypervigilant, especially about modern threats.
Aquila Degree was very open about their precautions.
Yeah.
The sources note they intentionally did not have a computer in the house.
Right, which was a very deliberate choice at the time.
They cited the news reports back then about pedophiles luring children away over the internet. So that level of safeguarding just makes the idea of her leaving voluntarily. It's almost unfathomable.
It is. And then you add her personality profile on top of that.
She was described universally as quiet, cautious, intensely shy.
Her mother recalled that Asha was even, quote, scared to death of dogs. It just paints a picture of a deep-seated timidity.
A fear of the unfamiliar.
Exactly. Aquila stated years later, very definitively, I never thought she would go out of the house. And that really becomes the central psychological puzzle here.
Right. How does a child with that specific inhibited personality do something so dramatic, so high risk?
Let's narrow in on the timeline leading up to it. She was in 4th grade. The weekend before she disappeared was a 3-day weekend. Friday, February 11th, was a day off from school.
And she was a star point guard on her basketball team, which again just shows her being involved in normal, healthy kid activities.
But we do have to look at her emotional state right before she vanished. On Saturday, February 12th, her basketball team lost its first game of the season.
And she had fouled out of the game.
Yes. Her parents said she was visibly upset. She was crying along with her teammates. But they also noted that she seemed to get over it later that day after watching her brother's game.
So while some people have focused on that, the sources seem to suggest it was a pretty typical short-lived emotional reaction.
Probably not enough to motivate what happened next.
Okay, so that brings us to the night of Sunday, February 13th. The kids get home from a relative's house after church. It's around 8 p.m., and they go to bed in the room they shared.
And this is where a key external factor comes into play. A nearby car accident knocks out the power in the neighborhood.
So the whole area is plunged into darkness from about 8 p.m. until 12:30 a.m.
That power outage is incredibly important. It disrupts the household routine. The usual lights and sounds are just gone.
Her father, Harold, checked on the children twice. The first time was at 12:30 a.m., right when the power came back on.
And both kids were asleep.
He checked again at 2:30 a.m., right before he went to bed for the night. And again, both Asha and O'Brien were still asleep in their beds.
So that 2:30 a.m. check is the last confirmed time an adult saw her.
But there's one more detail, a really small, haunting one, that came from her brother, O'Brien.
Yeah, he was 10 at the time.
He remembered hearing Asha's bed squeak shortly after his dad left the room. but he was half asleep, and he just assumed she was rolling over or changing position.
That squeak was likely the moment she started to get up, the moment her journey began.
And the preparation evolved. It suggests this was not an impulsive decision. Sometime after 2:30 a.m., she gets dressed, packs a book bag with clothes and personal items, and slips out of the house.
Wearing a long-sleeved white t-shirt and white pants. And she does this without waking anyone. It speaks to an incredible degree of planning. Or maybe desperation.
Now, the timeline of her being outside the house is documented with almost forensic precision, thanks to witnesses who came forward later.
It's a very narrow window.
Incredibly narrow, between 3:45 a.m. and 4:15 a.m., so less than 2 hours after her dad's final check.
And she's spotted by two different people, a truck driver and then another motorist. Both saw her walking south along Highway 18.
And we really cannot overstate the conditions outside at that time.
No. The witnesses described it as a raging storm. Heavy rain, high winds.
This is a cautious 9-year-old child walking into what sounds like a dangerous storm in the dead of night.
The location was about 1.3 miles from her house, so she'd already covered a fair bit of ground.
And that second motorist's account, that provides the terrifying end to what we know for sure.
This driver saw this small child walking alone and was so disturbed by it, he turned his car around 3 separate times to try and approach her to see if she needed help.
But when he did, Asha's reaction was, it was immediate. And it was the complete opposite of someone seeking help.
She fled. She ran off the side of the road and disappeared into a heavily wooded area.
That flight response is pivotal. It's so important.
It is. It suggests either she was deeply afraid of this stranger, or she was afraid of being discovered, or she was trying to meet someone nearby and didn't want to be interrupted.
For a child so shy, so fearful, to run into dark, stormy woods away from a potential helper, it suggests that whatever she was doing or whoever she was meeting was more important than the immediate danger of the storm.
And that's where the trail goes cold, at that point of flight into the woods.
So the next morning, the reality of the situation hits the Degree family. Aquila, the mother, wakes up at 5:45 a.m. to get the kids ready for school.
She was drawing a bath for them because the power outage the night before had prevented that.
Around 6:30 a.m., she goes into their room to wake them up. She finds O'Brien, but Asha's bed is empty.
And the sources describe just immediate chaos. A frantic search of the house, the cars.
Aquila calls Harold's mother, who lives right across the street. When she confirms Asha isn't there, she said she went into panic mode.
And she called the police immediately. The call came in before 6:40 a.m.
The police response was fast, but they hit setbacks almost right away. Officers were there within minutes. They called in police dogs.
But the dogs couldn't pick up a scent.
Which is a big deal. It suggests a few possibilities. Either too much time had passed, or the rain had just washed the trail away.
Or that she hadn't walked the whole way. That maybe she was picked up in a vehicle very close to the house.
A massive neighborhood search started right away. Friends, family, local clergy, everyone was out looking.
But that first day, there were almost no physical clues. They found a mitten, but Aquila Degree confirmed it wasn't Asha's.
Which also reinforced that she hadn't left wearing proper winter clothing.
It wasn't until the news coverage started that day, on Valentine's Day, that the two motorists came forward.
And their reports were crucial. They confirmed her route, south on Highway 18, and that critical detail about her running into the woods when approached.
That really focused the search efforts. 2 days later, on February 15th, they found the first real physical evidence.
Right. Items that the parents positively identified as Asha's were found in a shed at a nearby business.
And this shed was located right near where she was last seen running into those woods.
Inside, they found candy wrappers, a pencil, a green marker, and a yellow hairbow.
So the presence of those items in a shed, it's an intermediate point. It suggests she either took shelter there for a moment before fleeing deeper into the woods.
Where someone else put the items there.
Exactly. There was also a wallet-sized photo found nearby. It was a picture of one of Asha's friends.
That just adds another layer of mystery. How did that get there?
As the search continued, Aquila realized more things were missing from the bedroom. Asha's favorite clothes, including a specific pair of blue jeans with a red stripe.
But despite all the effort, we're talking 9,000 man-hours and investigating 300 leads, the physical search was called off after 7 days.
And that's when law enforcement had to try and make sense of all these conflicting facts.
The FBI and SBI concluded that she had prepared for her departure. The pack bag proved that.
But she did not fit the typical runaway profile at all, and this is a distinction we need to really emphasize.
So what does that profile usually look like?
Well, investigators usually see runaways who are 12 or older. There are often clear signs of, conflict at home or problems at school. They might leave a note.
And Asha was 9. By all accounts, she was happy, doing well in school, and from a very stable, loving family.
Right. Agent Bart Burpo noted the discrepancy himself. Her behavior was purposeful, but it completely contradicted her known psychological profile.
So the theory had to shift. They were left with two main possibilities.
Either she ran away and got completely lost, maybe disoriented in the storm, and something happened to her.
Or she was abducted very soon after leaving home, possibly by someone she knew or someone who had been watching her.
And the fact that she ran away from that motorist, that detail, combined with the packed bag, left investigators with this almost unsolvable paradox.
Prepared flight, leading to a forced disappearance.
Yes. And they had to treat it as both a runaway gone wrong and a potential abduction. It stretched their resources and complicated the whole initial direction of the investigation.
Even after that initial physical search ended, the family and law enforcement worked really hard to keep the case in the public eye.
This is that long, difficult phase of keeping a cold case from going completely cold.
Just a month after she disappeared, the family was on the Montel Williams show, and over the next few years, her case was featured on America's Most Wanted and the Oprah Winfrey Show.
So there was early national interest driven by how strange and troubling the case was.
Locally, the efforts were also huge. In March of 2000, a big color billboard with Asha's picture went up right on Highway 18, near where she was last seen.
There were other unique initiatives, too. The sources mention a stock car driver, Travis Kittleson, who put Asha's image on the hood of his car for a televised race in 2001.
It just shows how determined the local community was to generate a lead.
But despite all of that work, the case stayed cold for a year and a half.
And then in August of 2001, a discovery was made that was just as confusing as the original disappearance.
Asha's book bag was found.
It was found during a construction project, but the location, it just threw all the previous theories out the window.
The book bag was discovered off Highway 18 near Morganton, North Carolina.
And Morganton is about 26 miles. That's 42 kilometers north of Shelby.
Remember, every witness sighting had her walking south.
We have to stop and really analyze what that 26-mile distance means. A 9-year-old child could not have walked 26 miles in the opposite direction through a storm. It's impossible.
It confirmed transportation was involved, an adult was involved. The initial search radius was completely wrong.
And the way it was found is just as critical.
It wasn't just dropped or lost. The book bag was wrapped in 2 separate black trash bags.
That's deliberate concealment. That's someone carefully trying to hide evidence, not just discarding it.
The construction worker who found it said Asha's name and phone number were inside, which immediately linked it to her. The FBI took possession and sent it straight to their lab in Quantico.
But for years, the contents of that bag were a mystery to the public. It wasn't until February 2020, on the 20th anniversary, that the FBI confirmed what was inside.
And the items were deemed vital clues, but they just created more questions.
What were they?
The first was a copy of the Dr. Seuss book, McElligot's Pool. It was confirmed to be a library book from her elementary school. But what's interesting is that McElligot's Pool is a book for much younger kids. Kindergarten, first grade.
And Asha was in 4th grade.
Right. Why would a 9-year-old pack a picture book for 6-year-olds?
What was the second item?
A T-shirt. It had the band New Kids on the Block on it.
NKOTB. That's another interesting anomaly.
It is. They were huge, but mostly in the late 80s, early 90s. So that shirt was sort of culturally relevant for people who were older than Asha in the year 2000.
And here's the most important part. The FBI's analysis concluded that neither the book nor the T-shirt appeared to have been her property before being placed in the bag.
Which raises so many questions. Did she get these items after she left home? Did an older person she met pack the bag for her, maybe putting in items from their own history?
Or were these items planted in the bag by someone else entirely?
The distance, the double wrapping, the strange contents, it all points away from a simple runaway scenario.
It paints a picture of deliberate criminal intervention. Someone provided transportation or held her captive before disposing of her things 26 miles away.
And despite the book bag being this massive clue, leads just remained elusive. There was a notable dead end in 2004. A tip from a jail inmate led to a dig in Lawndale.
But they only found animal remains.
Exactly. It just speaks to how difficult it is to work with cold leads like that. Investigators knew where the evidence ended up, but they still had no idea who put it there or why.
So the case stayed cold, but that physical evidence was preserved. He was just waiting for technology and the right resources to catch up.
And that commitment finally arrived in 2015. This marks the modern phase of the investigation.
In February 2015, the FBI, the Cleveland County Sheriff's Office, and the SBI announced they were officially re-examining the case from the very beginning.
A total review of all the evidence, re-interviewing all the original witnesses.
And this was backed by some serious money. The FBI offered a reward of up to $25,000.
And a local community group immediately added another $20,000 to that. So the total reward was $45,000.
That kind of money signals to the public that authorities believe this case is solvable. They need the community's help.
And the new investigations started to get results. In May of 2016, a crucial new lead emerged about how she was transported.
The FBI announced they had credible information that Asha may have been seen getting into a vehicle on Route 18 that night after she ran into the woods.
And the description of the vehicle is incredibly specific.
It was described as a dark green, early 1970s Lincoln Continental Mark IV, or maybe a Ford Thunderbird from that same era.
And it was noted as having rust around the wheel wells.
That is a very specific description. It shifts the search from just any car to a very niche classic automobile that wasn't very common even back in 2000.
The authorities ramped things up even more in September 2017. They brought in the FBI's elite child abduction rapid deployment team, the CARD team.
And it's important to understand what the CARD team does. Their involvement is a major commitment of resources.
They spent 10 days in Cleveland County. We're talking about experts in geographic profiling, behavioral analysis, forensic review, all focused on connecting the dots.
And the sheer volume of work during this period is just, it's astonishing. The agencies were meeting several times a month.
As of early 2018, they had conducted about 300 new interviews just since the case was reopened.
This wasn't a passive review. This was a full-scale, active investigation.
And all of that methodical work led to the most recent and really the most dramatic shift in the case between 2024 and 2025.
The investigation moved definitively into a homicide case.
And this was based on physical evidence they'd collected over time. When search warrants were executed in September 2024, the announcement was explicit.
Authorities now believe Asha Degree was a homicide victim and that her body has been concealed.
And that's not just a change in wording, it's a legal reclassification. They've moved from searching for a missing person to searching for a crime scene and human remains.
During that search in September 2024, they didn't find any remains, but they did seize multiple items of interest, including a very specific vehicle.
A green 1964 AMC Rambler.
So another older, specific model car. It suggests they might be zeroing in on a suspect with an interest in classic cars, which links back to that earlier lead.
And then, in early 2025, the public gained even more insight. In February, the sheriff's office executed 3 more search warrants, seizing cell phones from a local man and 2 of his children.
Targeting electronics. That suggests they're looking for communication about the crime, or maybe stored photos or information.
And this is where the sources reveal what is probably the most unsettling piece of public information. A few days after those warrants, details from a previous search became public.
It included text message exchanges.
And in those text messages was one critical self-referential line. It read, "The theory is, I did it."
Let's just unpack that statement for a second. The theory is, I did it.
It's not a confession, but it confirms a massive shift. The investigation is now so close to a suspect that that person is discussing the official theory of their own involvement in private texts.
It means they've been identified as a person of interest. They know they're under suspicion.
That single sentence tells you the investigation is no longer searching blindly. It's now focused on securing evidence against a known target.
And the search has continued through 2025. Most recently, in April, investigators searched a property that was, quote, once owned by a prominent figure in the investigation.
So this relentless, methodical approach, seizing cars, collecting electronic data, targeting properties, it confirms this is now a highly active homicide investigation.
And for the Degree family, these 25 years, it's just been an unimaginable journey. Immense pain, but also just unwavering resilience.
Their commitment is absolute. Aquila Degree has said in interviews, "I fully expect her to walk through the door."
That hope is still there. Their home is still decorated with pictures of Asha, including those age-progressed photos from investigators.
It's if they're keeping her space ready. It just reflects their refusal to accept any kind of closure without real answers.
They've also channeled their energy into such positive action. In 2008, they started a scholarship in Asha's name for a local student.
It ensures her name is associated with hope and education, not just with tragedy.
And they host an annual awareness walk, It starts at their home and ends at that missing persons billboard on Highway 18.
And there's a small, poignant detail about that walk. It was originally held on February 14th, the day she went missing.
But they changed the date.
They did. They moved it to earlier in February because they felt it was unfair to make their community mark Valentine's Day as a somber occasion every single year.
That just shows such empathy, even in the middle of their own loss.
It does.
Now, beyond the investigation itself, the source material also includes some important social commentary from Asha Degree.
Yes, from a 2013 interview. She spoke very candidly about the amount of media attention her daughter's case received compared to others.
Specifically, cases involving missing white children.
And we need to report this, as she stated it, recognizing it as her factual observation about their struggle for national attention.
She was quoted directly in the source material as saying, "Missing white children get more attention. I don't understand why. I know if you ask them, they will say it's not racial." Oh, really? I'm not going to argue because I have common sense.
That observation is a critical piece of the case's broader context. It highlights the challenges the family felt they faced in just keeping their daughter's story visible.
It shows their fight was really on two fronts, a fight for justice for Asha and a fight for equal media exposure.
And it really underscores why that continued local and federal resource commitment is so vital, regardless of how much media attention a case is getting.
The fact that this is now a homicide investigation 25 years later is a testament to the persistence of law enforcement and the family.
Absolutely.
So our review of all this material really confirms that the Asha Degree case is just defined by these contradictions that still persist.
You have a young, shy child who, for reasons we still don't understand, performs this calculated act of leaving her safe home in a storm only to run from help.
And that initial mystery is then compounded 18 months later by that physical evidence that just changes everything.
The book bag, found 26 miles away, wrapped in 2 trash bags, and containing items that they just didn't belong to her.
The Dr. Seuss book for younger kids, the New Kids on the Block t-shirt. Those items remain the most important physical clues we have.
And this whole trajectory has now culminated in the definitive determination by authorities that this is a homicide investigation, and they appear to be closing in on a suspect.
It forces us back to those initial questions. What force was powerful enough to make a cautious 9-year-old leave home in a storm and then flee from help?
And how did those specific items, the book and the t-shirt, travel 26 miles north, all wrapped up and concealed? Those items are the thread that connects her departure to what we now know was a tragic outcome.
As you reflect on this, consider the complexity of profiling these cases, especially when a child's actions so dramatically contradict everything known about their personality.
Asha's case moved over 2 decades from a possible runaway to a confirmed abduction and murder investigation.
What does this prolonged pursuit tell us about the nature of cold case investigations? And what lessons can we draw about the essential role of persistence? From law enforcement and from the incredible, enduring strength of a family. We hope this exploration of the sources proved helpful and informative for you. Thanks for listening.